I'm a sucker for your style and the things you do. I was living foul, no doubt, I wasn't blaming you. No one skipped.
Yo, yo, I just got a crazy ass video, y'all. It's it's basically about diseases and stuff back in the day, and nurses and stuff and cures that they didn't have that they have today. So we're gonna sit back and watch it. I don't know too much about the video. It's my first time, but I was told that the video was pretty dope. I'm gonna watch it. You guys watch it with me. See what we can make of it.
In 1918, parents in England truly believed the best way to protect their children from the flu was to take them to factories and have them breathe in toxic fumes.
What?
That sounds completely backwards, but desperation makes people do wild things.
What?
This list has cures that make zero sense, diseases that drove entire civilizations insane, and one pandemic that may have already happened over a century before anyone gave it a name. I'm Mike with List 25, and these are 25
Mike, you gotta
surprising
come
facts
correct.
about pandemics
Oh, hold on,
and
y'all.
epidemics. 25. Lincoln's mom died from milk. Before Abraham Lincoln became the president, he was a 9-year-old boy watching his mother waste away from an illness nobody understood. In the early 1800s, a mysterious illness called milk sickness was tearing through the American Midwest, and it was absolutely terrifying because nobody could figure out what was causing it. People would drink fresh milk or eat butter and then drop dead within days. Entire families were wiped out, and communities started abandoning their land because they thought the soil itself was cursed. Nancy Hanks Lincoln died in 1818 while young Abraham watched helplessly, unable
Abraham
to do
Lincoln
anything
mom?
but sit by her bedside as she slipped away.
Oh.
His father built her coffin by hand because there was no one
Because
else
that's what
around
us
to
real
do it,
niggas do.
since most of the neighbors had either fled or died themselves.
Oh.
It took 16 years before a frontier midwife named Anna Hobbs finally cracked the case. A Shawnee woman told her the secret that indigenous communities had known for generations. Cows were grazing on a toxic plant called white snake root, and that poison was concentrating in their milk.
Oh, wow.
The answer had been there the whole time. It's just that nobody had thought to ask the people who already knew.
I would have called that
24.
the mad cow disease.
Mexico lost 80% of its population.
What?
Between 1545 and 1550, a disease the Aztecs called Cocolitzli swept through Mexico and took somewhere between 5 and 15 million people with it.
Whoa.
That's roughly 80% of the indigenous population gone in just 5 years. To put that into perspective, the Black Death killed about a third of Europe. This was far worse, and it happened with terrifying speed. Victims developed high fevers that came on suddenly, and then came the bleeding. Blood poured from their eyes, their mouths, and their noses. Most people died within 3 or 4 days of showing symptoms. Entire villages vanished from the map so quickly that there was no one left to bury the dead.
That's that plague.
The mystery wasn't solved until 2018 when researchers extracted DNA from the teeth of victims buried in a mass grave. The culprit turned out to be Salmonella enterica, a pathogen mass until 2018. No one left to bury the dead. The mystery wasn't solved until 2018 when researchers extracted DNA from the teeth of victims buried in a mass grave. The culprit turned out to be Salmonella enterica, a pathogen almost certainly brought over by European colonizers.
Is that like the same as like the raw meat salmonella? Somebody educate me. Hit me with it in the comments.
The conquest of Mexico wasn't just military, it was biological.
Bruh.
And the disease did far more damage than any army could have. 23. Cholera invented the IV drip. When cholera ripped through Scotland in 1832, a doctor named Thomas Latta tried something nobody had ever attempted before. He was watching patients die from dehydration so severe that their blood turned thick and dark, and he decided to try injecting salt water directly into their veins.
Wow.
It was a desperate move, and nobody knew if it would work or
just
make things worse. The results were nothing short of miraculous. The medical journal, The Lancet, described the recovery of his first patient as looking like the workings of a miraculous...
So whenever y'all go to the doctor, and y'all go, you know, y'all go do your thing, Get sit in what's that? What they call that intake? When you go in there and you do the first stage and they put the IV in you. You better think that man did a good, decent job for y'all mofos that don't drink enough water or hydrate yourself. Sometimes dehydration comes from a lot of other stuff. But let's get back into it.
And supernatural agent. Patients who seemed moments from death suddenly revived. Their eyes brightened, and it wasn't long before they sat up and started asking for water.
Nice.
Latta had essentially invented intravenous therapy, one of the most important medical innovations in history. Tragically, he never got to see its full impact. Tuberculosis took him just 18 months later, and the medical establishment largely forgot about his discovery for another 70 years. The man who invented the IV drip died before anyone truly appreciated what he'd given the world.
Appreciate that.
Rome recruited gladiators to fight wars. In 165, Roman
boys.
soldiers came home from the Middle East carrying something far worse than war wounds. They brought back a plague, likely smallpox, that would tear through the empire for the next 15 years. At its peak, somewhere around 2,000 people were dying every single day in Rome alone. The bodies piled up so fast that disposal became a logical nightmare. The Roman army was so devastated that military officials had to do something unthinkable just to keep the legions functioning. They started recruiting slaves to fill the ranks.
Yo, I don't feel like these numbers is like outrageous, bro.
When that wasn't enough to replace all the lost soldiers, they turned to gladiators. People who had existed solely to fight each other for entertainment were suddenly being handed real swords and told to defend the empire against actual enemies on real battlefields. Some historians argue that Rome never fully recovered from the losses. 21. Typhoid Mary attacked officials with a fork.
What?
Mary Mallon was the first identified asymptomatic carrier of typhoid fever in American history.
What's typhoid?
She absolutely refused to believe it. She worked as a cook in wealthy New York households, and everywhere she went, people got violently ill. Health investigator George Soper spent months tracking the outbreaks and traced more than 50 cases directly back to her. The problem was that Mary never showed a single symptom herself, so in her mind, she couldn't possibly be the cause. When health officials finally tracked her down to explain the situation and ask her to stop cooking, she didn't take it well. She grabbed a carving fork and chased them right out of the house. It took 5 police officers and several hours to capture her.
I would have never touched her. She would have just gone on with her merry little way. I'm dying as soon as I get next to her or feeling sick, bro. What? She's the mother of death.
She spent 26 years in quarantine until her death. Over 400 other known typhoid carriers in New York lived freely during the same period. They just had to agree not to work in food service. Mary refused that deal, escaped quarantine once, went right back to cooking under a fake name, and caused another outbreak. 20. Aspirin may have made 1918 worse.
Word?
During the 1918 flu pandemic, doctors may have accidentally made things worse while desperately trying to help their patients.
Prescribing people with aspirin that they didn't need it?
The U.S. Surgeon General recommended aspirin at doses up to 30 grams per day.
Oh, look at
that. The maximum safe dose today
Look at Bayer's tablets. That's pretty dope. 5 grams each.
Up to 30 grams per day. The maximum safe dose today is 4 grams. So they were telling people to take more than 7 times what we now consider dangerous. At those levels, aspirin causes toxic fluid buildup in the lungs, internal bleeding, and hyperventilation. Those symptoms look an awful lot like severe influenza, which means doctors were probably looking at aspirin poisoning and thinking the flu was just getting worse. So, they gave more aspirin, which made things even worse, and it looked like the flu was progressing. Researchers now believe a significant portion of deaths were caused or worsened by the cure itself.
It wasn't even the flu. You human, man. It's a learning curve, bro.
19. Athens still doesn't know what hit it.
What that
2,500
mean?
years ago, during the brutal war between Athens and
2,500
Sparta,
years ago.
something started taking out the Athenians that had nothing to do with combat. After all this time, with all our modern technology and medical knowledge,
We still don't know what
what
happened
it
to
is.
the
The
Athenians.
historian Thucydides
So,
was there and survived to
Athenians.
write about it. He described victims developing horrible rashes all over their bodies,
Wow.
violent bleeding that wouldn't stop, and an unquenchable thirst so severe that some people threw themselves into water tanks trying to find relief.
Whoa.
The disease moved through the crowded city with terrifying speed, and up to a quarter of the Athenian population died.
Wow.
In 2006,
And we
scientists found
still
DNA
don't know
evidence
what
of typhoid
smoked
fever
these
in a mass
boys.
grave from that era, but the symptoms Thucydides described don't quite match.
Well, I hope that motherfucker
The
don't
plague
come
of
back.
Athens remains one
Keep
of
that
history's
plague
oldest cold cases,
right there.
and we may never close it.
Keep that plague
18.
right there.
People blame telegraph wires for the flu. When the Russian flu hit in 1889, people were absolutely desperate for explanations. They didn't understand germ theory the way we do now, and they were grasping at anything that might explain why so many people were suddenly getting sick. The New York Herald ran a story speculating that the flu was
Another
literally
flu
traveling through
story.
telegraph wires because so many telegraph operators seemed to be coming down with it. Others blamed letters from Europe, paper money, and library books. Modern scientists now think these panicked Victorians might have been wrong about the mechanism, but accidentally right about something much bigger. Genetic evidence suggests this flu may not have been flu at all.
Yep, there
It
we
might
go
have been
again.
coronavirus that jumped from cattle to humans around 8.
Whatever happened to the Athenians, keep that over there. Don't bring that motherfucker back. COVID, y'all brought back. Y'all did y'all big one with that. Keep that shit over there. Stop with these plagues, man. Stop doing.
If that theory holds up,
Put a gun to the
the
nigga head and scroll.
1889 pandemic was the first coronavirus outbreak in recorded history. But we'll come back to that idea later because it gets even wilder.
Yeah.
17. Polio turned summer into terror. Before Jonas Salk developed his vaccine in the 50s, summer in America meant something very different than backyard barbecues and trips to the beach. It meant fear. Polio season arrived every year like clockwork, usually starting around Memorial Day and peaking in August. Public swimming pools were drained and locked shut.
Whoa.
Movie theaters closed their doors. Even playgrounds sat completely empty while children stayed trapped inside despite the heat. Many families developed morning rituals where children had to touch their toes and put their chins to their chest, checking for the neck stiffness that was often the first sign of infection.
Oh, wow.
In 1952, the worst year on record, nearly 58,000 cases hit the U.S. Thousands of children ended up in iron lungs, those giant metal cylinders that breathed for them because their own muscles no longer could. 16.
What?
Black Philadelphians saved the city and got blamed. During the 1793 yellow fever epidemic in Philadelphia, Dr. Benjamin Rush made an assumption that would have devastating consequences. He believed black people were naturally immune to yellow fever, and he convinced the Free African Society to
I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it alone. I had a joke. Lord, I had a joke.
behind and nurse the sick, while 20,000 white residents fled the city in panic. Richard Allen and Absalom Jones stepped up and organized hundreds of black volunteers to do the work that nobody else would touch. They buried bodies that had been abandoned in homes for days. They nursed patients whose own families had fled without looking back. They kept Philadelphia from collapsing into complete chaos during one of the worst public health disasters in American history. Of course, they weren't immune. Nearly 400 black Philadelphians died that summer doing work that white citizens had abandoned.
Man.
And after it was over, a popular pamphlet accused them of theft and
Once a fudging again, y'all. Oh man. It's like, yo, when is it ever going to be? It's never going to be. It's just.
extortion during that crisis. Allen and Jones had to publish their own account
Oh,
just to
man.
defend their
Sorry,
community's honor
man.
against lies spread by the people who had run away. 15. The smallpox blankets were real. You've probably heard the story about colonizers giving Native Americans blankets infected with smallpox.
Yeah.
It gets repeated so often that some
I
people
heard it
assume it's
before.
exaggerated, or maybe even made up entirely. Well, it's not,
I already know
and
what's
we
going
have the
on.
receipts.
I know what's going on.
In 1763, during Pontiac's rebellion, British soldiers at Fort
I
Pitt
got the
gave
receipts from here. This is what I be talking. Show me black and white.
2 Delaware emissaries a gift. Blankets and a handkerchief were taken directly from the smallpox hospital where soldiers were actively dying from the disease.
And it was given to
Captain
the
William
indigenous.
Trent wrote about it in his journal with casual indifference. He noted they gave the items out of their regard for the emissaries, then added that he hoped it would have the desired effect. His commander, General Jeffrey Amherst, had already expressed in writing his wish to extirpate the indigenous population. Whether those specific blankets caused the outbreak is debated. The intent behind giving them isn't.
It worked.
14. Norway was the leprosy capital of Europe. When you think of leprosy, you probably think of biblical times or tropical climates.
Leprosy.
Maybe leper colonies on remote islands.
Right.
You almost certainly don't think of Scandinavia. But in the mid
What's
1800s,
that, yeah?
Norway had the highest concentration of leprosy patients anywhere in Europe. It was in Bergen that Dr. Gerhard Hansen identified the bacterium that causes leprosy in 1873. This was the first time anyone had definitively proven that a specific germ caused a specific disease. Hansen essentially launched the entire field of medical bacteriology with this discovery. It came at a moral cost, though.
Like what?
To prove the disease was actually contagious, Hansen injected infected material into a patient's eye without her consent. He lost his hospital position over the ethical violation, but his discovery changed medicine forever.
Yo.
13. A vaccine disaster.
Sometimes as like a scientist, I want to say, or like somebody that want to discover something, like somebody that's like fixated on actually figuring something out, gotta take sacrifices, man. Don't let that go over your head, man. Your sacrifices may be crucial to your either freedom or life, but you did it for the greater good.
All the rules. In April 1955, America was celebrating Jonas Salk's polio vaccine like it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. Patients wept with relief in the streets. Church bells rang across the country. Then, within weeks, everything went horribly wrong.
What happened?
40,000 children developed polio from vaccines manufactured by Cutter Laboratories.
Oh, yeah.
The company hadn't properly inactivated the virus during production, which meant instead of giving kids protection, they were injecting live polio directly into their arms. 200 children were paralyzed, 10 died. The Cutter...
Oh, bro, what are we doing? When I say this is the very beginning, the tipping point of human test guinea pigs, man. Yo, I almost want to cry, babe. That's crazy. That's crazy.
hadn't properly inactivated the virus during production, which meant instead of giving kids protection, they were injecting live polio directly into their arms.
Not the kids.
200 children were paralyzed, 10 died. The Cutter incident led to a complete overhaul of how vaccines are tested, manufactured, and regulated.
Yo,
Every single vial that goes into your arm today follows safety protocols that were written because of what happened that spring.
That just
12.
hurt my heart.
Spanish flu wasn't Spanish. Spain is
Fuck was it then? It's because they was blamed for it, and that's why it's called the Spanish. Okay. I mean, alright, so who did it?
Pandemics in human history for over 100 years now, and they almost certainly didn't start it. The 1918 flu most likely originated at Camp Funston in Kansas, where soldiers were training before shipping off to fight in World War One.
Oh, Kansas
So,
started it.
why does everyone call it the Spanish flu?
Wow, yeah.
Spain was neutral during the war, which meant their press wasn't being controlled by military officials trying to maintain morale. When King Alfonso XIII fell ill, Spanish newspapers reported it openly and honestly. Meanwhile, the US, Britain, France, and Germany were all actively suppressing news of the outbreak in their own countries.
Which made it seem
Spain
like
was simply
Spain
honest about what was happening, and they've
started
been
it.
stuck with the blame ever since.
Oh.
Actually, how Florida Man gets the thing. We're just kind of more open with our stories, and so
Go
Florida Man
ahead.
became a thing. 11. Toxic fumes as flu prevention. Speaking of 1918, desperation drove people to try absolutely anything for protection against a
crazy to me.
disease they didn't understand. Some of the preventative measures people use sound completely insane now, but they were watching their neighbors die and had no idea why. Parents in England took their children to factories and had them breathe in harsh chemical fumes, believing the toxic industrial air would somehow kill whatever was making people sick. Others wore bags of camphor around their necks like protective talismans, gargled with household disinfectants that were never meant to go in anyone's mouth, or took small doses of strychnine, a poison that was somehow sold as a health tonic at the time.
No. This was so. Yo, I heard. Look, manufacturing chemist in Baltimore. I heard of this right here. This was so to help. He'll tell you what it was.
Doses of strychnine, a poison that was somehow sold as a health tonic at the time. Some families burned chemical-soaked sheets inside their homes and sealed all the windows shut, which only made disease transmission easier when someone inside was already infected.
This is real life.
When
how
you
we
don't
could figure out
what's attacking you,
right.
fear makes you do
Yeah, you
desperate
do
things.
anything, bro.
10. Medical students hand-pumped air for weeks. When polio hit Copenhagen in 1952, the hospital faced a nightmare scenario. They had one iron lung. They needed dozens. Patients with bulbar polio couldn't breathe on their own, and they were dying simply because there weren't enough machines to keep air moving in and out of their lungs. Dr. Bjorn Ibsen came up with a desperate solution.
What do you do?
He proposed manually ventilating patients using rubber bags attached to tubes inserted through cuts in their throats. The technique could work, but someone had to squeeze those bags continuously.
That's why I like to see the origin of certain things, man, because it's kind of fascinating to find out certain things that you see damn near all your life, you know, and to see the origin of certain things and why it happens. Sometimes it sucks because experimenting is exactly what it is, experimenting. And it just so happened that these things that we need to save our life was experimented or was actually tested because other things didn't work and we lost a lot of people because of that. So, boom, the invention of this bag. I like this one.
Or the patient would suffocate within minutes.
Whoa.
So, Ibsen recruited medical students. Hundreds of them worked in rotating shifts, squeezing rubber bags hour after hour, day after day, for weeks on end.
Wow.
If you lost focus, the person in front of you would die. It worked, and Ibsen eventually developed the positive pressure ventilator that became the foundation of modern.
Imagine the pressure on the person actually having to deal with that bag is crazy, man. Like, this is the things that we gotta really think about. Like, oh man. I like the fact that, you know what I mean, this is life-saving tools. This ain't something that's, a hack that somebody just figured out. Like, these are life-saving tools that lasted decades of generations and still to this day saving lives. And we talking about putting in computers to replace a lot of people, man. We gotta relax.
Intensive care medicine. 9. Catherine the Great evacuated every factory. The Moscow Plague of 1771 pushed Empress Catherine the Great to take measures that seemed extreme, even by the standards of an absolute monarch. The disease was spreading so fast and taking so many people that bodies were piling up in the streets faster than anyone could bury them. Catherine ordered that every factory be moved out of Moscow entirely. She
in
wasn't
Russia.
just closing businesses temporarily, she was physically relocating entire industrial operations outside the city walls. By the time the epidemic finally burned itself
Crazy.
out, roughly 100,000 people had died. But the chaos didn't end there. A man named
Crazy.
Yemelyan Pugachev appeared,
Whoa.
claiming to be Catherine's
Yemelyan
supposedly dead
Pugachev.
husband, gathered a following of desperate people, and led an uprising that took thousands more lives.
Wow.
The plague didn't just kill people, it destabilized an entire empire. 8. Mosquitoes were mocked for 2 decades. In 1881, a Cuban doctor named Carlos Finlay stood up at a medical conference and proposed something his colleagues thought was absolutely ridiculous. He believed mosquitoes were transmitting yellow fever from person to person. The other doctors essentially laughed him out of the room.
I got a crazy theoretical question, and when I say crazy, y'all don't underestimate that word. What if every time, because you know when a mosquito bites you, it takes your blood, and then it goes and it reproduces with another female mosquito with that same blood. I don't know if it's a female and female. I don't remember the genetics too much, but I know that that baby is created. Do you think you the parent of that damn mosquito? It's your DNA in that mosquito, boy.
Finlay didn't give up. He kept presenting his theory at conferences, publishing papers,
It's like
and trying to convince
surrogate. That's what
anyone
they
who
call
would
it.
listen. Nobody took him seriously for nearly 20 years. It wasn't until 1900 that an American named Walter Reed finally proved Finlay had been right all along. Reed got most of the credits and had a famous army hospital named after him.
Oh wow,
Finlay
Walter
had
Reed
figured out the
Hospital.
truth 19 years before anyone was willing to listen. Sometimes being right just isn't enough if nobody's ready to hear it. 7. Plague victims
was deep.
hallucinated before dying. The 6th century Justinian plague came with a symptom that terrified everyone who witnessed it. Contemporary accounts describe victims experiencing vivid hallucinations before they
Look
even
at these
started showing
paintings. These paintings is like illy, like it's dope, but it's like traumatizing and sad at the same time. But it's beautiful.
physical symptoms. They saw phantom figures appearing in their
Whoa.
homes, and some reported prophetic visions of their own deaths before falling ill. Whether these hallucinations were caused by the pathogen itself, extremely high fevers
Look like
affecting the brain,
chickenpox.
or sheer psychological terror spreading through communities is impossible to determine now. The plague took somewhere between 25 and 50 million lives over the course of 2 centuries and nearly collapsed the Byzantine Empire in the process.
I'm so thankful for living in this day and age.
6.
So I'm gonna stop pausing it.
Jonas Salk gave away billions. When Jonas Salk announced that his polio vaccine was safe and effective, a reporter asked him who owned the patent. Salk's answer became one of the most famous lines in medical history. He said, "The people owned it," and asked if you could patent the sun. Salk gave away the formula freely to anyone who wanted to manufacture the vaccine. Between 1955 and 1962, over 400 million doses were distributed around the world. Polio cases dropped by 90% almost immediately. Children who would have spent their lives in iron lungs got to grow up normally instead.
For the people, we the people, us the people. U.S. Nah, I did that.
Analysts later estimated that the patent could have been worth around $7 billion. Salk walked away from that money without a second thought because he believed saving lives mattered more than getting rich. 5. The 1918 flu killed more than both world wars. Somewhere between 50 and 100 million people.
Or was it the flu? Let's just keep that in mind. Was it the fucking flu?
Died from the 1918 flu pandemic. That's more than all military deaths in World War I and World War II combined. A single disease outbreak took more lives than 2 of the bloodiest conflicts in human history put together. In the US alone, over 500,000 people died in about a year. The virus moved so fast that coffin makers couldn't keep up with demand. Bodies were left in homes for days at a time because there simply wasn't anyone available to move them. In some remote villages in Alaska, the disease arrived, spread through the entire population, and
How
left
can
no
you live
survivors
in
behind to
ice?
bury the dead. It
A lot of
remains
people
the
do that
deadliest
in Russia
pandemic in modern history.
and in Alaska.
4. Being healthy made the 1918 flu worse. Most flu outbreaks follow a predictable pattern. They hit the very young and the very old hardest because those groups have weaker immune
Weak
systems.
immune system, yeah.
The 1918 pandemic completely shattered that pattern. It had a massive mortality spike among people aged 20 to 40,
Healthy.
the healthiest and strongest members of the population. The virus was triggering cytokine storms. When your immune system detects a serious threat, it releases proteins called cytokines to coordinate the attack against the invader. In a cytokine storm, this response goes completely haywire. Instead of fighting the disease, your immune system starts attacking your own body.
Oh, word.
Healthy young adults had robust, powerful immune systems that mounted massive responses. Those powerful responses turned against them. 3. The diphtheria run. A diphtheria outbreak hit Nome, Alaska in 1925 while the town was completely icebound, cut off from the rest of the world with no ships or planes able to get through. The disease spread through the community while doctors watched their antitoxin supplies dwindle to nothing. Official records listed only a few dozen cases, but the true number was almost certainly higher. Many Alaska Native families buried their children without ever reporting the deaths to authorities they had no reason to trust, and entire communities were grieving in silence while the outside world had no idea how bad things had actually gotten. The only way to get medicine into Nome was by dog sled, so teams of mushers relayed the serum across nearly 700 miles of frozen wilderness until it finally arrived. The outbreak was contained, and the most famous dog sled from the relay, Balto,
Like, these are the most famous dogs ever, bro.
Central Park.
Yeah.
Most of the people who actually died
New York
have been forgotten entirely. 2. COVID might have already happened before.
I said that.
Remember that 1889 Russian flu I talked about earlier, and how scientists analyzing the pandemic now believe it might not have been influenza at all? A human coronavirus called OC43 split from a bovine coronavirus right around 1890, which matches the timing of that pandemic exactly.
OC43.
When researchers looked at historical accounts of the symptoms,
that's why when you guys look at y'all Lysol cans way before COVID happened for 2019, 2020. It was saying COVID on the cans. This was an actual thing, but it was a name that they created, that they named it back in the day. But the OC43 was an actual disease. But man, welcome back to recreation. Somebody recreated that disease, man, and put it out. Don't let that go over your head.
They found descriptions that sound a lot more like COVID-19 than like the flu. People reported losing their sense of taste and smell. They described neurological problems that lingered for months. The mortality patterns hit the elderly much harder than children.
If you know,
Many victims complained of long-term symptoms that persisted well after the initial infection cleared. If this theory is correct, we didn't experience our first coronavirus pandemic in 2019. We experienced our second.
Yeah.
1. A 12-year-old girl changed medicine forever.
Talk about it.
During the 1952 Copenhagen polio epidemic, a 12-year-old girl named Vivi Ebert was dying. Bulbar polio had paralyzed her breathing muscles completely, and the hospital had already run out of iron lungs. Dr. Bjorn Ibsen refused to let her go. He performed an emergency tracheotomy and brought in medical students to manually pump air into her lungs using rubber bags, as I discussed earlier. Hour after hour, shift after shift, they kept her alive one breath at a time. Vivi survived. She became the first patient ever saved by positive pressure ventilation, the technique that would eventually evolve into the mechanical ventilators used in every intensive care unit on Earth. Before Ibsen figured this out, 90% of bulbar polio patients died.
Wow, man.
Within a month of implementing his technique, that number dropped to 11%. Every ICU in the world traces its origins back to that desperate effort to save one little girl. Every ventilator used during COVID-19 exists because one doctor refused to give up. Vivi Ebert lived into adulthood, and she probably never fully understood how many millions of lives her survival helped make possible. And there you have it.
Hey, man, listen, I'm not gonna lie. I'm very grateful to be alive. I hope you are too. I'm very grateful to be healthy in my own way. I hope you are too. Just stay healthy, man. Watch what you eating, and then watch what you guys like surround yourself with. You know, cover yourself up, man. Stay healthy, man. And shout outs to all the medical people that discovered a lot of the things, and the medical people that is still out here doing their thing. We need y'all.
I'm a sucker for your style and the things you do. I was living foul, no doubt, I wasn't blaming you. No, I skipped